Hello everybody, this is Mrs. Wright, and I am excited to do an art project with you today. So first I'm going to talk about our supplies. First I just have a white piece of paper. This was actually taken out of a sketchbook. It's a little bit thicker than normal printer paper, but all you need is a white piece of paper. Underneath you can see the blue. I actually put a blue piece of paper underneath. So when we're painting, it's okay if I go over the edge and I don't go onto the table. So you need a white piece of paper and hopefully a piece of paper underneath. Then we need some paint brushes. I actually have 2 different paint brushes right here. And a cup of water to put them in. Some watercolors. I actually have them in 2 different shades, or 2 different ones because I wanted some more blue. And then also some oil pastels. Kind of like crayons, but they're much more oily. But we need shades of green, oil pastels, shades of blue, oil pastels, and hopefully an orange, white, and yellow. If you don't have these supplies right now, that's okay. You can just watch and maybe you can do this later, okay? I will make sure that I post this so that you can see this recording another time. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to paint the background, right? We're going to fill this whole white page with that black starry night, and then we're going to have bushes in the front. So we're going to get our paintbrush really wet in that cup, and then we're going to spend some time really wetting down our blue. So I would spend a few minutes just really soaking your paintbrush in that blue and filling the bristles, dunking it in with blue. Okay? Our next task is to take our paintbrush and we're going to paint all the way across the top. And we're going to keep dunking in blue, and we're going to try to make sure we fill in all the white space. Okay? It's okay if you have different shades of blue. That's what I like about watercolors, is that you have all these different shades of blue. So every single time I'm going back to my water, going back to my blue, to make sure I get lots of blue paint on there. And I'm going to stop just about halfway down the page, and I'm going to switch to green. So nice sweeping marks from one end to the other. Once you think you've reached that halfway point of the page, I'll show you my whole page. I'm kind of at that halfway point. And the second half. I'm going to do one more line of blue. Some little paint chunk in there that made it a nice deeper shade. Okay. So now I'm going to switch paintbrushes. I'm going to change my paintbrush and use my other one. And then I'm going to do that same thing in the green. Make it really wet. Soak my bristles in that paint. And then do the second half of the page in green. And it's okay, like my colors just kind of blended together there. That makes it more interesting. Nice sweeping marks from one end to the other, soaking my paintbrush. Now the tricky part is if you're doing this alongside me, that we do have to let this piece dry before we go on to the next piece. So you can choose to put yours to the side and just watch me for the rest, or you can get another piece of paper and do the second part on another piece and come back. It's really up to you. Our time is kind of short together, so I don't really have time to let it dry. You could use a hair dryer if someone's handy to help you with that, to make it dry a little faster. But once this is all filled in, we do need to let it dry, and then we're going to go to the next part. Okay, so as you can see, I have half my paper is blue and half my paper is green. Now I'm going to take a pause and let this dry, and then we'll do the second part. See you in a minute. Alright guys, here we are for our second phase of our Van Gogh Starry Night. So what I have done is I let this dry. So it took an hour to dry, so it does take some time, but you can always use a hair dryer to make it go a little faster. And then I used my dark green Poet Pastel to do a dark bush in front, in the foreground, okay, with a little one right beside it. And then I took my lighter blue color and I did the hills that are in the background. So one hill behind the bush here and another one here. And then I took a darker blue and did a hill here and two bumps of a hill here. Now I'm going to take my pale orange and we're going to work on those flowing spiral stars that are in there. So we're going to just do a line across right here behind the bush, and then we're going to do kind of like a sideways S shape. We'll do one swirl here and then you'll see that sideways S shape. Just like a S laying on its side right here. Okay, so two swirls, and then we're going to do a crescent moon shape right here. Okay, so it's like a C, and then another C inside of it for crescent moon. Okay, then we're just going to go around and do dots for stars. We're going to come back and do something different with those in just a minute. Just put a series of dots all around your page that we're going to come back to and add more details to in just a minute. Okay, so now we're going to work on making these hills have some more texture and a rounding effect. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that same light blue color, and you're going to start by just taking and making lines that go down and kind of up towards the hill and have that curving effect. I'm just going to keep doing lines all the way along that first hill, like so. Okay, and then we're going to do that same thing over here on this side. So just kind of following those lines, giving that hill a rounded effect. And you can tell right away it makes it stand out a little more. Oops, did that one in the wrong direction, that's okay. Okay, and then I'm going to take my darker shade of blue and I'm going to go in between these lines. Give it even more of a pop. Just take your darker blue, carefully going between those lines. And then doing the same thing on this hill. Okay. And then we're going to do a similar effect on the hills behind. So I'm going to start with my darker color, but I'm going to make the lines on the hill behind go in a different direction. They're actually going to go more sort of up and down. So I'm going to do lines that go like this. That'll help distinguish between the two different hills. And it really doesn't matter how you make your lines. You can be creative with it and make it how you want. These are all just suggestions. Okay, do the same thing on this hill. More of just kind of an up and down line. And as you might have guessed, I'm going to take a much darker color. I'm going to take my I'm actually going to use, let's see if I can find a purple. To do my lines in between. Again, same thing that we did on the other hill. It really gives that effect of distance. You can see, you can almost feel like these hills are closer and those hills are further behind. Okay, so for that tree, I'm going to use two different lighter colors of green, and I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to use a little bit of a darker or wider stroke, and I'm going to just take and make some flowing lines in this tree all over the place. Some can be long, some can be short, kind of like S's again, are they? Just kind of covering my tree or bush, and then coming through with another color of green right beside it. It gives the feeling of movement in the tree, like the tree is blowing in the wind. Okay, so now we're going to start working with, in Van Gogh's work, you can see that he uses a lot of dashes to make things look like they're moving, like there's a sense of movement, and even like a halo effect. So what we're going to do, where we have that orange line, we're just going to do a series of dashes all along both sides of that line. Dashes are like just little broken marks. I'm just going to keep following that swirl along the dashes. Don't forget to do both sides of that swirl. And then we get to color in the moon. Nice and dark. And then let's do those same dashes all around the moon. Really gives a sense of its brightness. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to just take some of the yellows and the whites and the oranges that you may have and continue with dashes around those stars that we made before. Okay, to really show they're shining. So I'm going to go around all those orange dots I made and put dashes. And then you can even take, what's fun about pastels is you can use your finger and blend. So if you wanted to blend some of the colors together, you can see that when I use my finger, and I will get messy, look at my messy hands, but you can blend and make these edges feel a little softer, or add some more color, blend it, okay? It's one of my favorite parts about pastels, the blending. Okay, but I'm going to keep adding some more dashes all around. And you can go crazy with your dashes. Okay, and if you want to blend in some of that orange in your moon. I wish I had made my moon a little bigger because then I would have had more space to do some blending. And the next thing that's really fun, that really makes everything pop, is adding some white dashes. So the white dashes actually really make it look like things are sparkling. You can put them right in there with your where your star started, right? Maybe circling up that orange dot and adding some white around it. So that you can see sparkle. Everybody loves a little sparkle, right? And again, you can use different shades of yellow, different shades of orange, and just go crazy with your dashes. Because, especially the white, I feel like the white really makes things pop. Go inside the swirl. Alright, so I'm going to stop there with the dashes, but like I said, you could be adding all sorts of more dashes. Now, the other thing you can do is blend, okay? So, one of the things you have to be careful of is, see, I just blended there and there's a little bit of green, that's okay. But if you want to just kind of experiment with blending those colors, it's fun. It's messy though, and maybe you just want to leave your picture like this. What I've noticed about blending is it helps it look a little softer, like those lines are a little softer, and also it fills things in and blends them together in a kind of interesting and fun way. Gotta be careful with this paper though, you don't want to rub too hard so that it would rip. I'm going to do that same thing here, blending. Kind of see how it's filling in a little more, softening. Again, this is optional. And also, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but you can do this if you have acrylic paint at home, you could fill this in with acrylics as well as an additional step on top of this. I'm not going to do that for the sake of time right now, but it is an option. Again, be really careful with acrylics because they can be messy and hard to clean up. I'm kind of excited to blend right here because I can blend those two greens together really nicely. Just gives that illusion of movement, softness. So you could go ahead and do that on the other side here. I'm a little nervous to do my blending up here because my fingers are dirty. But you could do the same thing here with blending. I'm going to try with this one and see how it looks like if you wanted to blend your stars. Right, or just rub them to make them look a little softer. But that, my friends, is the version of Starry Night. And I hope you enjoy this. And I want to show you real quickly the come on computer, there we go. So there is Van Gogh's version. Sorry, my computer was slow. Okay, and there is our version. So you could go, since this picture has all these houses, you could go back and fill in the houses if you want to. This gives you kind of a good understanding of some of the techniques that Van Gogh used. I hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed making it for you. Take care.